his actions haven't matched that rhetoric. And in this, we think there's a real opportunity to do so. So from our perspective, the president should be taking more specific, bold action. This nuclear policy guidance petition I'm mentioning is one of the efforts that we're engaged in currently. When they produced the Nuclear Posture Review, we were calling for a very clear statement that said the only reason, the sole reason for having nuclear weapons is deterrence. And suddenly it changes the number of nuclear weapons you need and their purpose and their force structure. You know, part of the problem in this days of budget crunch is we're spending billions of dollars to preserve and strengthen a nuclear weapons arsenal when the needs of our people are going unmet. So for a variety of reasons it makes no sense, but the purpose that some suggest of nuclear weapons as a deterrent to others using nuclear weapons is mad. They called it mutually assured destruction, and it remains crazy. And yet we couldn't even get this president to declare that as the sole purpose of nuclear weapons. So we've got a long way to go to make this more likely. Others, though, would use nuclear weapons just for retribution. Can we imagine a world in which it was a nuclear weapon detonated on 9/11? And what would happen in Washington, D.C., in New York City, in Delhi, all around the world? We have great population zones where a dirty weapon can go off very easily. The challenge to get the nuclear material isn't as great as we would like. There's vulnerable fissile material that you can make bombs out of all over the world, much of it not protected well. And the president has declared that he will try to secure all vulnerable nuclear material over the 4 years of his presidency. And we've made some progress, but quite limited progress. In fact, a lot of people can have access both to the technology and to the fissile material and make a crude nuclear weapon, something like was dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and destroy an entire city. So in addition to the nuclear weapon states saying these weapons are for deterrence only, and then creating a force structure, a much smaller force structure, to move in that direction, we're very concerned about the accidental use of nuclear weapons or a terrorist group choosing to annihilate a city with just one bomb.
And what exactly do you mean by the accidental use of nuclear weapons?
Well, it's something that, again, we don't like to look at, but our nation, which has better controls than some of the nations with nuclear weapons, has lost track of nuclear weapons repeatedly. We have flown them across the country not knowing where they are, not knowing there are nuclear-armed bombs on that plane. All sorts of things have happened where we have just amazingly been lucky so far. And it's why I say, if these weapons are kept, eventually they will be used, and they will be used to horrific impact. And it could even be an accidental launch. And that's one of the things that scares many of us, that it doesn't just have to be a deliberate decision to really bring about the end of the world as we know it. It can just be stumbling towards oblivion. And it's a frightening prospect, and one that we can take action to change. It need not be this way. We need not have weapons on high alert, and we need not have fissile material where people can get at it. We can choose to live a different way, and I hope we will.
All right, and those are the questions. So is there anything else that you'd like to explain that you think is crucial to the population's understanding of?
Well, I guess my perspective on nuclear weapons is also shaped by my study of successful social movements of the past. While we spend time in DC lobbying on Capitol Hill, I really believe that what brings about change, whether it was women getting the right to vote or the end of slavery, are effective social movements. And what is needed is a mix of presence in the nation's capital and around the world, connecting through the tools of social media to others who care about these issues, but also a social movement that gives politicians the space to do what they think is right. And my hope is, as with almost every other successful people's movement of the past, that young people will lead us to this brighter future. That in the past, and almost all social movements, it has been a new generation that says, well, we see a path out of this darkness, and we're not willing to accept this as the way it is the way it's always going to be. In fact, we want a different kind of future for ourselves and our children. And so my hope would be that a genuine social movement forms that can address both the nuclear weapons issues, but the environmental issues, which are as dangerous for our world today, and that it is led by young people as it has so successfully in the past.
All right, so that's it. Evelyn, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
No.
Okay.